Welcome to another episode of The Main Event. I'm your host with the most, One More Sanchez, and today I have a special guest in the building. Well, it's technically not in the building, guys, but you get it. He is the owner of DLG Image Creations. I reached out to him because one time I had interviewed a boxer and saw his art, and we'll go into that here in just 1 second. So his work is awesome. Y'all guys check it out. We'll get all his information here. But I wanted to introduce Danny Garcia. Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. And I may not be in the building physically, but I'm there in spirit.
There we go. Through Zoom, live through Zoom. Well, again, man, I want to let everyone know that's watching or that will hear this show. I reached out to you a couple of months ago. I had interviewed Caesar.
Yes.
And you had like his photo was Julius Caesar. And I was like, man, that picture's dope. And I come from the industry where I always got to give credit for everyone. And I reached out to you. I said, hey, man, do you mind if I borrow your picture? You were like, yes, go ahead, go for it. I thought that was love, man. You just said, just tag me. And so I wanted to bring you on the show just to kind of talk about your work and what inspired you, because everything you do, you focus around boxing. But tell me a little bit about the photos first before we get into it. I kind of want to hear your side. What inspires you to do like,
so again, like,
range?
Oh yeah. So me, I guess I've always been kind of a creative person, but I'm also an analytical person. And since I was a little kid, I fell in love with boxing. Used to watch boxing with my dad ever since I was little. So Camacho and Julio Cesar Chavez and Pernell Whitaker, all those fighters. So growing up with that, and then seeing fighters like Miguel Cotto, and when I was younger, I had the opportunity to see Cotto fight live at the Garden a few times when he did the Puerto Rican Day Parade. So there was once I went to the festival at 116th Street and got to see Cotto in person. My family got autographs and stuff like that. And then I got tickets to see him fight. So the first fight, it's funny, the first fight I ever went to, I just happened to be working in a building in Manhattan downtown where they did the weigh-in for a heavyweight fight. And I met Don King, and he gave out free tickets. And I got tickets to see Galata versus Bird. So I got free tickets just because it was in the building. I was walking out at the time and got free tickets and went to my first boxing match, which was Galata versus Bird. And I fell in love with going into it live. And from there, I was like, you know what? I got to see the fights live. And one of the fighters I was drawn to was Miguel Cotto. It became my favorite fighter. I saw Cotto when he fought his Olympic rival, the guy from, I think is Uzbekistan or wherever I can't pronounce his name. But I saw that fight at the Garden. I saw when he fought Zab Judah at the Garden. I saw when he fought Shane Mosley at the Garden. So almost any time that he was in town to fight, I was there. And then it just kind of, my love for boxing was always there. And I always had the Photoshop, the creative side, drawing, writing, whatever it was. And I started getting into Photoshop, and I would just do images of like family members as comic book characters, or I would just take random pictures and do silly stuff. And then one day I did some silly stuff for boxing, and somebody saw a picture and said, hey, can you make me a logo? Can you do me a picture? And I started doing random requests, and I started doing stuff for boxing, and people kind of liked it. So I kept on doing it. And then I started getting more and more requests. And then as I started doing requests, certain boxers kind of saw it, and they would use the pictures and post it. It would get retweets. It would get posted, and people would contact me. So I've gotten to the point where certain boxers reach out to me directly. So I've worked with Amanda Serrano, done stuff for her. I've done stuff for Sanisa Estrada. Her dad has reached out to me from seeing stuff I've done, and I've done work for them. Afacio Falcon Jr., the Jeter, Cesar Jeter, I've done stuff for him. So it's just a lot of times it's just like, hey, can you do me a favor? Can you do this? And for me, I can do pictures of like everything, but there's a lot of people doing pictures of Canelo and AJ and Wild and all the big names. And they have people that do that stuff for them. But there's other boxers who don't have that. Not everybody's a Canelo. Not everybody's a Katie Taylor. But those fighters still need the attention. You can't have boxing if it's just the big guys. You need the little guys too. You need to follow their stories. You need to get to know them. They need to build that base. So I noticed as I did pictures for the smaller fighters and the not as known fighters that they really appreciated it, and they shared it, and it just grew from there. And it's like, you know what? It's an opportunity that, not everybody is going to have that opportunity to have someone who is like a Canelo to basically have them do the poster for them and get that attention. So it's not that difficult. All you need is a decent picture, and a graphic designer can do something nice. Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's part of the show. The show overall is to highlight the contenders, their road to championships. And you said something perfect, man. You like, I do these drawings to inspire, to motivate. And at the end of the day, those people who are just starting their career boxing would appreciate the little stuff, because it's hard work to get to where the Canelos were from. Having been a fan of the sport, did you box yourself, or do you train? You just do it for fun?
I've never boxed. My mom was very strict, and she was like, "Well, hell no." One of the funny stories is that I'm Puerto Rican, so I'm first generation here in New York, and I've always heard stories of my family, like my uncle and I have a couple uncles, but one main uncle and my dad, when they were younger, they were like, "Oh, I'm gonna be a famous boxer. I'm gonna be a famous boxer. I'm gonna leave and I'm never coming back." So turns out my father and my uncle tried, and it didn't go so well, and they got beat up, and they came back, tail between their legs, and it was kind of like, you know what? And after that, my dad was like, "You know what? You're not boxing." My mom was like, "Nope, you're not boxing." So I never really took it up. So in school, I didn't have a real boxing gym near me, or I wasn't aware of it. So it wasn't until I got a little bit older and watched it, and at that point, I was like, you know what? It's too late to kind of start now. But my kids kind of watch me watch it, and they kind of get into it. So I do actually got a speed bag and a heavy bag that I recently got, and it's in the basement. So just not to actually train to do it, but just to be physical and do some exercise and just kind of have something to do. I do have it, and for the kids, and it's just something that, one, self-defense, and two is just the discipline of it. Just it's a good workout. So I do enjoy watching it, and you know what, just for the physical point of it of just exercise, I think is good.
Something you said before the show that I thought was awesome too, that I wanted to highlight, was you talked about the analytical side of boxing. That beyond just the counter punch, the power punch. Talk to me a little bit about an example. Would it be who is a boxer that you can admire from the science of the box, that moves around the ring, that can cut the corners and is very strategic?
I've liked Cotto. I like fighters like Cotto. I've liked fighters like Golovkin. One thing I know about Golovkin is like there's no wasted movement. Those jabs have a purpose. The way he cuts off the ring and he stalks you. It's stuff like that. Fighters that do stuff like that, like you don't always have to throw the most punches. You got to throw the right punches. It's not always about accuracy. It's not always about, just volume. It's, it's the intelligent aggression of when to do it and how to cut the ring off, and just being able to predict what the other fighter is going to do. So just seeing the subtle movements and how to win around, you don't always, like, I've seen people, like, the way you maneuver and kind of how you control them with your movement, not so much with the punches you throw. It's people like Lomachenko, his footwork is insane of how he can be around you, but not be close enough for you to hit him. Like, that Matrix nickname is really fitting, because I've seen some of his fights where he's in arm's distance of you hitting him, and he just does subtle movements, slight movements where you think you're going to hit him and you just don't. And it's stuff like that, like making the person miss and just knowing when to, like, another fighter, one of my favorites is Terence Crawford, where you watch his fights and you hear him between his corner and he tells his corner, yeah, this is the round. I've learned, he learns what he needs to learn. He said, this is the round, I'm going to end it. And he'll go out and exactly what he said, he saw something and he takes advantage of it. And he takes the fighter out right then and there. And it's just, that's a cerebral part of the boxing game where you know exactly within the first couple of rounds what you can do and what you can't do, and to take it to your advantage. So fighters who don't have a particular style where it's, you know what, it's not just I'm going to do what I'm going to do. I'm going to take away everything that you can do. So sometimes it's a matter of not implementing your game plan, but not letting the other person do theirs. So when I look at a fight and I see them fighting, it's okay, whose game plan is being implemented? Is the counterpuncher counterpunching? Is the aggressor being aggressor? Is the person who is normally the volume puncher, is he throwing a lot of punches? So it's kind of like, whose game plan? Because if you're fighting the other person's fight, you're already lost. You have to make them fight your fight. You want the celebrity stuff? I'm like, that's cool, celebrity stuff. You want to do some little charity thing, celebrity, put the headgear. My thing is that it's a dangerous sport. And right now everybody thinks it's cool and all, but the one celebrity who gets hurt is going to stop, because these fights get sanctioned. And if they can't get sanctioned, then nobody wants to put money behind it because it's a liability. It's when it costs you money, that's when it'll stop. Right now it's making money, so nobody sees any issue with it. But the first time that somebody gets hurt, that's when the retirees and the celebrities are like, wait a second, I could get hurt. And then that's when nobody wants to put money behind it. So again, it's you have all these different sanctioning bodies, you have these different commissions, and the rules differ. So that's one of the issues that it makes it so difficult. You have so many moving parts and so many hands in the pot that you can't get it under control of one person, like the UFC is. And that's where the difficulty lies, where you have different organizations making different rules in terms of, these different types of belts and who's the mandatory and who's not the mandatory, and making exceptions for certain fighters and not others. And that's, for me, that's where, like, I love boxing, and at times I love it and I hate it at the same time, where I love this sport. I love the stories of some of the fighters, but then when the politics get involved, it's just kind of like, what's the need for all these various different belts that make no sense? It's like when they bend the rules or break the rules for certain people and not others. It's like, I'm one person who's like, rules are the rules for a reason, and once you start breaking them to accommodate your interests, then it's kind of like, I guess it kind of turns you off from it. So it's like,
yeah, you bring that up because, like, Lopez and Lomachenko, that was a really good fight, right? It surprised a lot of people, and then he said he's not going to give him an opportunity for a rematch, because if it would have been the other way around, Lomachenko wouldn't have gave it to him, which is right. But I think that as a fan, I'm like, are you dodging him? Because you're second guessing yourself.
If the fight went differently, I would say, if he knocked out Lomachenko, I'd say, you know what? I knocked you out already. There's no reason to fight you again.
Mm-hmm.
But the fight was closer than most people think. And it wasn't so much because of what Teofimo did. In my opinion, I said it was close. It could have been a draw, because when you look at why he won, it wasn't because of what he did. It was because of what Loma didn't do. Loma didn't throw punches for like the first 5 rounds. And when he did throw punches, he was effective.
Yeah, he was building up towards like they say, the championship rounds. I think it'd be a different outcome.
It will be. I think it would.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with these fights, is that one fight, people learn. Just because you have a loss doesn't mean that that person's better. They were better than you that day. And in all honesty, when I look at boxing, I said, you don't have to be better than that person 365 days in a year. You just have to be better than that person that day for at least 7 rounds. Mm-hmm. And anything can happen in boxing. It's that triangle theory stuff doesn't always work. It's at any given day, somebody can have what it takes that one day for those whatever amount of minutes or whatever amount of rounds to be better than somebody else. You just maybe hit a groove or just get into it where you can't miss, or just you're against a certain fighter. So when you see fighters with certain losses, he has 2 losses, he has 3 losses. Those losses may not be nothing. And there's certain days where, fighters go in injury, they stuff is on their mind, stuff just goes wrong. You may have just misjudged one punch or one movement, and that one movement you missed, you got caught with a punch that you didn't expect, and you got knocked out. But you can win a fight, be winning a fight for 11 rounds and get knocked out in the 12th. And it's kind of like, you know what? But you still want to see those fights. You still want to see certain fighters. Just because they got Gabe Rosado. Gabe Rosado goes to war every single time. He doesn't always get the decision. He has a few losses, but he goes to war and he's entertaining. And he's a fighter that I like to watch. Yeah. So him against Munguia is going to be a hell of a fight.
It is. Another one for me is like Bronner. I don't like what he does, but he never dodges. He'll fight him.
The buildup. The sad part for me is that the buildup. If he fought as hard and put as much effort into the fight as he does to the buildup, the fights would be so much more interesting. Like he tries to be so more defensive. He just doesn't throw that many punches. Like if he was put more output out, I think he'll do a little bit better, and people won't complain about the fights because there's all that talk, and that's cool. But when it comes down to the fight, it's like, okay, you threw 3 punches in 2 rounds. It's like, you're not going to win that way.
Copy box. Kind of going back to what you do, as far as the designs, this weekend's fight. Did you watch it? The Fury and Wilder?
Yeah, I watched it. It was a rough one just because of again, the politics and the back and forth and the accusations. And again, it's Wilder's entertaining. And yes, he got a lot of knockouts, but it was against lower competition. And that's cool to know. That's great. He's exciting to watch. But boxing skills, I've always said it. I was like, boxing skills are not there. He always has a puncher's chance, but a boxer is going to take advantage of that and can see how to beat him. And Fury is a really good boxer. And he also happened to have weight. He also had height. He also had reach. He had all the tools that would it's the kryptonite of a fighter like Deontay Wilder. Another fighter that I think probably would have had similar success against him would have been someone like Klitschko. Klitschko's style of, I'm going to keep you at a distance, but then when I get close, I'm going to lean on you. I'm going to lean on you. I'm going to push you back. I'm going to catch you with the straight. That type of lean, push, grab, punch would wear on Wilder, not giving him the chance to throw those right hands. So somebody like Klitschko. AJ, every time I think about an AJ Wilder fight in my head is like, I'm like, okay, the way I think of it is like, okay, if they fight 10 times, who's going to win how many out of those 10? So before it was like, you know what? I think it's going to be AJ 8 out of 10. And then as Wilder was getting some of these knockouts and then I was like, you know what? And then while AJ showing some of his flaws, it's like, you know what? It might be 6-10. It might be 6-4, or it might be 5-5. And every so often it kind of shifts based on the performance of the last fight. Like right now, AJ Wilder's last fight, he lost to Fury. He got knocked out. And that last knockout, he was out. Previous fight, he was knocked out. They threw in the towel.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that punch resistance. Like he's getting hit. He's never got hit like that before. He's fought fighters that, weren't as heavy hitters or weren't as big as him, as long as him. So it's tough to say. So Fury right now is kind of at the top right now because what he just did, he took out Wilder. But again, he needs to fight Usyk. He needs to fight. They need to unify, and that's one of the things. Like you get a belt, your goal should be getting the other belt, being undisputed. You need to unify. Yeah. So if you're just gonna have a belt just to have that one belt and not fight nobody else, it kind of defeats the purpose. So I definitely hope undisputed happens. Hope Canelo gets his undisputed at 168. I hope that we get undisputed at heavyweight eventually. So belts matter, ranking should matter. If you're a champion, you shouldn't be fighting somebody who's ranked like 19 or 20. Like if you are a champ, if you can't get the number 1, you go for the number 2. You can't get the number 2, you get the number 3. It's like there's no reason why you should be fighting, the 15th ranked fighter. Like you're telling me 2 through whatever is not available. So it's it's the politics of it.
What is as far as like when what inspires you on the drawings that you do? And I know a lot of them have backgrounds with fire and lightning. Is it more? Do you look at the picture and be like a warrior mentality?
I see pictures and it's like, this picture's cool. I got to do something with it. And then it's who's in the picture. So for example, I try my best to kind of put a little something from the fighter in it as well. So knowing their nickname, knowing where they're from. So like little subtle touches like that. Like the one I just did of Jamal Herring. If you look in the background, that's New York. You see a New York City cab in the background. Serrano, Puerto Rico, Brooklyn. I try to put little elements of that. If they're from Mexico, try to put little elements of Mexico. If their nickname is something very specific, I try to use something with their nickname to kind of just making it a little bit more personalized. So a lot of times you have graphic designers and you have people that know boxing. So you'll get a random graphic designer to do something and it looks cool, but there's not that personal touch, not something that you can be like, you know what, this is cool for an extra reason because this person added this thing that you wouldn't expect them to add. It's because you took the time to know who you're doing the picture for. So it's just I like to take that time to kind of look through and see and get to know the boxer's story to see, you know what, oh, this person was a cop, this person was a soldier, this person did this person did that. So it's kind of like what is important to that boxer that they will like, and when they see it, they go, you know what, that's cool. So somebody's name who's like Hellfire, boom, definitely I got to put fire in there. You got people like Andy Vences, who's El Tiburon, he's a shark. So I sent him a picture just personally, and I had him as Aquaman, and he found it hilarious. So I did him as Aquaman. So a lot of times, I'm a big comic fan and movie fan. So a lot of times I may do stuff that I'll put a fighter as a particular superhero. So I think I did one for Kovalev that I made him Colossus from X-Men. So Colossus is Russian, he's Russian. I figure you get a kick out of that. So it's like those little subtle things that most people are like, you know what? A lot of times I do stuff that nobody notices but the boxer, because it's just like I take that extra like little bit of time to kind of get to know who I'm doing it for. So even when I do it randomly, I try to take the time to kind of see, you know, what's this person's favorite color? Is this person, you know, what nationality are they? Do I see them always with a particular flag, I'm gonna put the flag. It shows that they love where they come from and they love their country. I'll throw the flag up there. If there's, something about their story that is unique, I'm gonna try to add some elements of that to just make it a little bit more special.
Is there someone that sticks out, a boxer that sticks out in your mind that you were appreciative because of the, kudos that they gave you or their story that just motivated you more?
Serrano, Amanda Serrano. Like I said, I did a picture and, she liked it. She shared it and started following me, and I got to meet her a couple of times, and she's extremely down to earth. And it's funny, there's a few times that she fought on my daughter's birthday, and I was actually doing a press conference and actually had the opportunity to cover some fights. And I got to meet her, and she did a birthday shout out for my daughter. She recorded a birthday shout out for my daughter. The following year, she was fighting on my daughter's birthday, and I got tickets to the Garden, and I went. And after her fight, she was in the stands, and I approached her, and she took a picture of my daughter. I've spoken to her manager, Jordan, and every time I've seen them or interacted with them, they've always given me love. So it's like, what, that little bit, it makes me. It's like they all put certain requests in, but a lot of times I do stuff randomly from the heart. And it's just the love that they give is like, a lot of times what I try to do is if a particular boxer follows me, I'll look to see who's followed me. So, you know what? This person followed me. Oh, up and coming boxer. Let me do a picture for them. Oh, this person liked a few of my pictures. You know what? Let me do a picture for them. So it was like, it gives me inspiration. I learn about new fighters. I learn about new things. And it's just to show the love they show love in me. And like, for me, I've done this for so long. I've been doing it for probably like 20 years now. And for boxing, probably like 7 years now, probably. But for me, I've gotten to the point where one thing I'm known for is my turnaround time. Like I can do these, like if I have the pictures ready, it literally takes me like 45 minutes to an hour to do it, to do a picture. It's second nature. It's like I do it without thinking. Like my kids are next to me, I'm watching TV, I'm like multitasking, doing a bunch of stuff. And it just, once I get into the flow, it just goes 1, 2, 3. So I turn it around quickly. So it's when I feel the love, I'm like, you know what? It doesn't take me that much. I can do something really quick. And the way that they appreciate it, it's like, oh, thank you so much. And they'll use it. And it's, you know what? It's an opportunity to get their names. Like for me, it's a hobby. For other people, they do stuff for likes. So they're going to do the popular stuff. They're going to do the Canelo. They're going to do the AJ. They're going to try to get attention and followers. And I don't have tons and tons of followers, and I'm not looking to, get tons and tons of followers. I do this for the pure love of it. I enjoy it. And my thing is the boxers. I like when the boxers follow me because I do it for them. So the more boxers that follow me is like, hey, you know what? You have a fight coming up? Let me do this. I'll be honest with you. I've seen a couple fighters that they have fights coming up, and I saw their fight posters, and I was like, ugh. I was like, really? That's the poster they made for you? And I said, you know what? I got you. I'm going to do a poster, and I won't say specifically, it's like, you know what? Your poster sucked. I'm going to do a better one for you. I'll do it, and they'll see it, and they'll use it, and I'm like, all right, cool. So it's not so much that I'm going out of the way to be like, hey, that shit sucks. It's just like, you know what? Here's a better poster. You've a lot of times the posters focus is the main event, and you may have your little picture in the corner, but you're trying to promote your fight. You're trying to sell tickets. So if you have a fight and you're the main focus on the poster, it's a little bit easier, and I think it's cool. So if I see that, I try to show love. So another thing too is like, you know what? I'm Puerto Rican. Try to show love to the Puerto Ricans, Latinos, whatever. I'll show love. New York fighters, give a lot of love to New York fighters. So it's just like, if you show love, I show love. If I see, up and coming, like Jeter Caesar, show them love. If I see a Falcon Jr., same thing. It's like, you know what? These up and coming fighters, I love the sport. I want the sport to continue. Everybody's with the boxing is dying. Boxing is dying. Boxing is a strategic, cerebral sport. It's not as popular as it used to be, but it's still a great sport. And I still love it. And I want it to continue. I want it to thrive. And in order for it to thrive, you got to get people into it. You will have to have the younger generations want to do it and want to see it. So any chance I get to give an opportunity to have somebody learn about another fighter is good. So it's like, you know what? I'm going to put as much as I can. And that's one of the reasons why the female boxing, I kind of got drawn into that one. There was a lot of fighters that, you know what? I've seen a couple of the fights. So Serrano fight, seen Estrada fight. And it was like, wow, they at the time, it was like, wow, they fight and they go all out and they put on a show. But then you don't know that much about them because they don't get as much exposure, don't get as much attention. And I noticed that, you know what? I started doing stuff for Serrano, and then the other, oh, can you do something like that for me? And just going out there, and it's just like they appreciate it a lot. They really do. And
No, I
you know
mean
what?
that's awesome because I have a feeling that you and I are probably around the same age.
About
Just simply on the fact that the boxers that you like.
yeah,
So I was like, maybe we are the same age. Um, Something that you brought up, like this week, there's a Puerto Rican fighter that is from New York, and he on October 30th he gets to fight at MGM. So just to see him start, this is the second time. His name is Steven Galliano. Stories like that, man, that started from how he grew up, lost his parents, went through college. You start to build this rapport with these boxers, and just listening to you, it was cool that I was able to learn a little bit more than just your art, because you're coming, like you said, you're doing this from the heart. You're doing this as a fan. You're doing this for love. And, I look at the bigger picture, and, I appreciate that you give love to those that are, that are up and coming. So I thought that was cool, man.
yeah. It's like I love boxing, and it's just an opportunity to give these people a chance to kind of show or use something that they can promote for themselves. So a lot of times I'll do something that may not be specifically a fight poster, but something that you can use for a background, that you can throw text on, that you can use to kind of promote yourself, to promote a fight. And it's just not everybody has access to graphic designers, and I know there's a lot of people that everything they want to do for a price. So a lot of stuff I do random, and it's literally I just put it out there, and I put it out there for people to use. So if you see a picture and you like it, use it, share it, tag the fighter, try to get it out there. It's if you have a specific request, yeah, I do side requests and then I get paid for, and it's cool, but I'm not going to charge you an insane amount of money. It's like I said, I do this as a hobby, and a lot of times it's just like, you know what, pay what you can, pay what you want, pay if you want. If you see something I use, feel free to use it. But if you have a specific request, yeah, I might have to charge, because sometimes it's just, you know what, you want something very specific and it takes time, and sometimes it's like the customer wants what the customer wants. So yeah, I get that. So then, like I said, there's the personal side and there's the business side. So, I'm pretty good at balancing both. But for the most part, it's just, hey, you have a fight coming up, you want something, I can do something random, I can do something quickly. I got you. If you want something specific, then yeah, you know what? We can work something out. But again, it's just I'm gonna try my best to continue to do what I do, learn about fighters. Like I said, I'm usually just on social media, just kind of checking. I try to follow as many boxers as I can. I've had people ask, "Hey, can you do something for this boxer?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So if there's boxers, again, for you, I've said it for you. Like if there's something that you need, something you're looking for, just let me know. There's a lot of different pages that follow me, and I follow them, and they'll ask for specific stuff. There's FMF Boxing who does a lot of stuff for women's boxing. There's Boxing Universe, who's specific to the UK, that does a lot of stuff on the UK and gives a lot of attention. There's a few different women's fight news that does a lot of stuff for the women put up their fights. So there's a lot of stuff out there if you look. And again, you'll see there's a lot of guys like me that do a lot of the posters and the fight posters. But again, you see they'll focus on the bigger fights and the bigger stuff. And you know what? Not everybody's Canelo, but we need all those other fighters. We need those other people, up and comers. We need the prospects. We need those stories to keep boxing going and to keep the fans interested. Like there's so many people who have such amazing stories, not just of the fights in the ring. One thing that I'm drawn to too is the character outside the ring. Like I said, Serrano outside the ring, so much love and the respect and how she carries herself out the ring. Miguel Cotto was another one that inside the ring, outside the ring, he was all business and professional. And, it's stuff like that. Like there's so many people that do so many great things that we don't even hear about because they don't do it for the attention. They do it because it's right. They do it because it needs to be done. And those are stories that, we don't hear enough of. Everybody wants attention. They want to do clickbait. They want all that attention. So when Broner goes to jail, everybody's posting Broner's going to jail. But if this boxer did something for charity, you know what? That story's not going to get that much attention.
Well said, man. It's just the generation we come from. I promise you, we're definitely the same age. We definitely.
Yeah. So one thing that somebody laughed at was like, you know what? If you'll notice when something's going on, I don't follow the crowd. I don't go with the flow for the most part of, it's Wilder versus Fury. Everybody's doing Wilder Fury posters. Everybody's doing Wilder Fury. And you see me, I'll just randomly put some boxer that may not even have a fight coming up, just some random boxer. Just because it's like, you know what? Everybody's talking about the same thing. It's like everybody, and forget my own lane. I'm on my own highway. I'm on my own time, my own pace. I put what I want when I want, and it's just random. But that works for me. And it's just, if you follow me, you're gonna see random pictures just randomly. And You've been like, oh, I never seen this boxer before. Oh, I know this boxer. And you're just going to keep seeing different elements of that. It's not always going to be what's popular today. You know, I maybe do something for, you know, somebody who's a retired boxer. I may do something for up and comer. I may do something for somebody who's not even had their professional debut yet. It's just somebody who's up and coming that eventually may make their debut.
And then real quick, I always like to ask one last question. What is one takeaway? If someone was listening, just not really paying attention, what's that one takeaway you want them to get from this conversation?
Everybody starts the same, like that road, you know, everybody start from somewhere. Nobody is just automatically in a position where they're in. So you know what? You're going to go through stuff. Everybody went through stuff. It's just, it makes you who you are. And, you know, some people use it as an excuse. Some people use it as fuel and motivation. And you have people coming from the same stories with different outcomes. And it's how you use it. You're going to use it as an excuse, or you're going to use it as fuel. And for everything I've been through in my life, positive, negative, even the negatives, I say I wouldn't change it, because everything I've went through made me who I am today, and I'm happy with who I am today. And it's just, you got to look at your life that way, where it's, you know what, be happy with who you are, and the things that you went through made you who you are, and you learn from those experiences. So it's a journey, and it's all about, you know, going through the journey. It's similar to boxing. It's like, you know what, you don't have to win every round. You can get knocked down, but you can get back up. It's how you finish it. Go to the 12, get back up. Every loss is not a loss. It's a lesson.
Well
Losing
said, man. I mean,
isn't the end of the story. You know, there's always another fight. There's always another chapter. So.
Hey, you dropping knowledge on these kids.